having that dream again. We are the emissaries from the void.
So yeah, these are all the people that are kind of recruited to go on this journey with the thief, led by the alchemist, up the holy mountain.
Right. They all show up in a helicopter, like clown car style. It was very, very silly scene where we, like, after we're done with Pluto, we're like, they all show up and they all bring these briefcases and they go up into the tower.
Is almost a spiritual Ocean's 11.
Yeah. Because basically the premise, because we finally get to the central, like, narrative premise of this movie, which is this idea that the alchemist gets up in front of all of the planetary mages and the thief, and he talks about how all these different cultures have this idea of a holy mountain with immortals at the top of it, and we're going to go to the holy mountain and we're going to go pillage the secrets of immortality from them, basically. And, you know, like that's like the idea of like attaining immortality. It's more of an Eastern thing than a Western. So Western occultism is about obtaining enlightenment and ascendance. And then the idea, like Eastern religions tend to have this idea that you can achieve a level of divinity through that. So like it's in modern occultism, you kind of get a synthesis between those two things. So the idea of like obtaining immortality at the top of a mountain is very much an Eastern mysticism thing rather than a Western mysticism thing.
Okay.
But of course, the director of this film, he's a very new agey kind of person. So he's definitely pulling from a lot of different inspirations for this. A lot of Gnosticism, now some Eastern mysticism thrown in, mostly Gnosticism though, let's be real here. But ultimately the idea is like, we're going to go raid this mountain, we're going to get these secrets. And so the entire third act of the movie revolves around that. So as we were saying, now we're fully beginning Act 3. They've set up the Ocean's 11 comparison is very funny because it's so true. They literally had like sit down with a projector, talking about how they're gonna like go heist the secrets of immortality.
And then it's like essentially a training montage almost of them going through these rituals.
They go to Peru, which is very funny. It's an interesting callback because like there's like Peruvian dressed people. And they take ayahuasca. And they like basically it's like a bunch of white people go down to Peru and take ayahuasca, trip their heads off so that they can find, because basically the alchemist says something along the lines of like, we can achieve the enlightenment we seek through the hard way, or we can do it a fast way. It's dangerous, but we're gonna do it. And so basically this cult is like, there's a difficult way to achieve enlightenment. There's the process of alchemy. The alchemist talking to the thief in the beginning of the second act, he's like, there's a process to this. You can turn yourself into gold. But then as soon as all of the other mages show up, all the other acolytes show up, the alchemist is like, you know what?
We're just going to speed run this.
We're just going to do this quickly. Like, which I think is very funny. Because again, they go and they just trip balls. It may not be in Peru, it might be in central Mexico, but they're like people that are dressed in like the you know what I'm talking about, like the colorful like quilted robes.
I don't know what any of it's called, but
so like I think they go to Peru. It's like it's clearly filmed in central Mexico, and it's like some Mayan ruins or something, but like it's clearly supposed to be Peru. Which I think is actually an interesting callback, because like Saturn's like, we're going to start our next war to Peru. And it's like a whole thing. It kind of goes to show the short-sightedness of that. Like whilst they're trying to think about the long-term control and indoctrination of the next generation, they're also very short-sighted because this place is going to like help them cheat out their enlightenment, but it's the same place that they're going to send a bunch of soldiers to in 15 years.
I feel like we don't have to like run through all of their like tripping ball sequence, but
it doesn't really matter, because the whole point is that they think that they achieve some kind of cohesion. Because look, audience, Ari has done a lot of hallucinogenics.
Oh my god,
a lot of them. I have done so many mushrooms, and I'll tell you that you do feel a oneness with everything. You do feel connected. And honestly, it's great. Like, we all did them together that one time. Yeah. And we all felt like we really understood each other better, and we're better friends because of it. What it did not do was enlighten any of us.
Right.
Like, you take mushrooms, you have a trip, you enjoy the trip, you come to understand things about yourself.
Right.
And then that's it. Like, that's all that needs to be said about that. It's not some special shortcut to gaining enlightenment, and it's not some
seeing
special
God.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not. And I think the movie kind of makes that point at the end, but we'll get to that.
Right.
But effectively, like, everything kind of revolves around this idea of they're trying to cheat out their enlightenment so that they can ascend faster and steal immortality for themselves.
Yeah.
And they think that they reach it. They think that they find the flower. There's like a scene where they're like that they send their senses to the dog, and the dog wanders off and finds these flowers, and then they become a human flower, and it's like a whole thing.
Yeah. They have a lot of like team building exercises. Is kind of what it amounts to. Like they've become closer as a cult.
Yes, exactly.
What was the scene where they like mourn the loss of like everything they've ever wanted, kind of?
Well, so and honestly, this is a really good scene because it's an ego death. It's basically like, so the thing that hallucinogenics can do is they can help you with ego death.
Yeah.
Knowing yourself involves also coming to terms with the fact that you will die. It's ironic that they're pursuing immortality while they're doing this, but basically, at least in my discipline, my paradigm, part of my initiation into the path that I'm on involved ritualistically accepting that I'm going to die. And like, it liberates you, because a lot of what people do is death denial. A lot of cultural things, a lot of the baggage we carry, a lot of religions revolve around the idea of denying death, the idea that we don't want to die, we don't want to cease to exist.
Yeah.
So we have latched onto anything that gives us a hope that we will be able to persist forever. And that's death denial. And there's like a whole study in sociology and psychology about death denial and how it impacts people. There's just been, I can't remember who did it, but you can look it up, audience, if you want to review this. But effectively, they did a study where people were reminded of their death, and they were harsher on the penalties that they gave out to other people. Like, they did like a thing where they're like, okay, how would you punish this crime? And for people that were not reminded of their mortality, they were much more lenient. And people that were reminded that they were going to die, they were harsher on their penalties. It's like a whole thing. Like, again, if you want to look into it, just look up death denial. You'll get into it. It's a whole rabbit hole you can fall down. But so the whole thing is that in spirituality, in the occult, esoteric knowledge involves getting past that death denial, kind of overcoming it and being like, okay, no, I'm going to die. It's okay. Right. And so they're like, one of you is drowned. So they do this bucket exercise. They're all still tripping balls in ayahuasca, but they do this thing where they're like, oh, one of you is missing, even though they're all still there in frame. We all know that. But the shaman that's guiding them is like, one of you is missing. And they go and look in the bucket, like, I found them, they're there, they've drowned.
Yeah.
And each of them does that to themselves.
Right.
So it's like each of them has encountered death denial, and each of them is accepting the death of their ego death, so that they can then be prepared for the climb up the mountain.
Just to go back real quick to this study that you were talking about, they had harsher punishments, but these are also people who are denying death. So it's like being reminded, and then with that denial kind of comes up in them.
Basically, like, yeah. So like, basically the idea that it's mortality salience is what it's called. Here, we'll just get into it. So mortality salience is the awareness that one's death is inevitable, and that all attempts to defer it indefinitely are ultimately futile. Yeah, so basically terror management theory asserts that almost all human activity is driven by the fear of death. most research done on terror management theory revolves around the mortality salience paradigm. It has been found that religious people, as well as religious fundamentalists, are less vulnerable to mortality salience manipulations, and so religious believers engage in cultural worldview defense to a lesser extent than non-religious people. So basically the idea is that the more atheist you are, the more reminding you of your death affects you than if you're religious. So because that makes sense. Like the idea is that most religions have an idea of an afterlife.
Right.
So the idea is that by engaging in a religion, you have already, you're kind of given in to the death denial to the point that you're not affected by it anymore because you believe with conviction that you're not mortal anymore. And there are some branches of occultism that revolve around the idea of like your soul reincarnating, and my discipline has that, but I kind of got into it with you after we were done watching the movie, which is basically like, it's not really me that would reincarnate. The central essence that is my soul continues to live again after again to exact change, but who I am, the current person, Ari, ceases to exist when I die. And I had to confront that as part of my initiation. So I just think this is a huge side bit from this like tiny little thing, but I feel like the death denial, the ego death, the idea that they drowned, and that's just like part of the journey, that being part of their preparation to actually climb the mountain, I think is kind of part of the point. And it's interesting though, because like, I feel like the movie is saying that this is kind of hokey, like it's not really achieving anything. They're just running around the jungle for several days.
It definitely has like kind of an ambiguous relationship with these rituals and ideas that it's presenting, which is one of the interesting things about the movie, I think.
Because it shows something really important to esotericism, like ego death. But in the context of like them just running around and having a trip in the wilderness. And don't get me wrong, I've had my fair share of trips in the wilderness, but like, I don't know. The movie seems simultaneously very critical of it and also like,
and I think that's, I've seen this movie called Absurdist quite a bit, and I think that's a major part of it, is this kind of duality in its relationship with these ideas, that they are ridiculous but also helpful. Like,
I think it ties back into what I was saying, which is that the core founding principle of esotericism is that it doesn't really matter what rituals you're doing, only if they're helping reveal parts of yourself to you.
So like from there we go to the actual climb, right? They go to the actual location.
Yes, but first they get stopped by a leprechaun.
Yes.
Like an actual leprechaun. But I think that he represents Dionysus.
That fits for me. Because he like takes them to this bar. What was it called?
They go to a place called Lotus Island, but it's like Ireland. Like it's really like they call it Lotus Island, but it's geographically, it looks like Ireland. It's somewhere in the like North Atlantic, like just based on the geography and the plants that we see. Pantheon Bar, that's what it is. Okay, so up until this point, we have gotten a very pagan-free interpretation of esotericism. It's been mostly just like the base facts, the tarot, the planets, which are not the gods. That the gods that are the planets that are named after the gods have a different place in occultism than the planets themselves. So it can be a little confusing sometimes if you're a very Hellenistic or Roman pagan occultist. It can be like a
shout out to our Hellenistic Roman pagan occultists in the crowd.
Hey, look, my ex-wife is a Roman pagan, so like, yeah, they exist. But like the planets represent a different thing, is my point. And so now we get to a point where it's interesting because it kind of shows that Jodorowsky is critical of polytheism and paganism. because the Pantheon bar is full of all of these people who have made it to the point where they are almost to be enlightened, but then they've all stopped at the base of the mountain for some reason.
Yeah. And he's almost like luring them to stop.
Yeah, Dionysus, like the god of pleasure, is like, hey, climbing the mountain, it's overrated. Like, what's more important is that, like, you join where everybody else is. And it's almost like critiquing Hollywood too. It's kind of crazy. Like, they're like, you've got potential, you guys gotta, and then like they interact with a bunch of people. And I think, like, once again, Jodorowsky is being critical of drug culture because they run into a guy that's just like popping LSD and pills, and he's forcing it on other people. And like, again, the use of psychedelics to assist in your ego death, or to assist you in like drawing up from your subconscious whatever, these things are useful tools to achieve it. And all of our protagonists did psychedelics. They all did ayahuasca. Right. It's not called ayahuasca in the movie, but it's clearly ayahuasca that they're doing, because of like how it's made in like the bowl, and they all drink it. And before I get too far, another thing is the monkey and the girl have followed them to the forest when they're having their trip. And the monkey drinks from the bowl and starts to meditate and starts to gain that stuff. And she starts to meditate. And like, remember we get a clip of the monkey meditating. And I was like, oh, wow, that monkey looks so peaceful. I was like, wow, that really affected me, that scene. But just keep in mind, in the background, that the prostitute and the monkey have been following them
around,
and they also did the ayahuasca.
Yes.
Anyway, we're going back to the Pantheon bar. So now we're here at a place where like drugs are being seen as this negative thing, like someone who didn't just use the drugs to assist them, they are using it as a means to the end for their enlightenment. They're like, and they start spewing some gibberish, like some just straight up sophistry about occultism. Like they use occult terms, but they are just, it's gibberish. Like, as a person who practices the occult, it's gibberish what they say.
Yeah. And he's one of this string of like kind of false prophets that they're confronted with, that are like trying to like sell them like, you can just follow me. You don't have to
work so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the one that's most interesting is, and we'll move on after this, but the one that's most interesting is the one who can walk through walls.
That's what I was. Yep, I knew you were gonna say it.
Okay.
He's like this kind of strongman looking guy, and he's like, I've conquered this mountain so many times, I can just walk right through it, and he does this cheesy effect with this, I don't know, building or statue or whatever he's in front of, and he can just like boop to the other side, and they're like, have you gone up the mountain? He's like, I can only go horizontally.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how this works.
Right. But he's like, look, I will conquer it. And he's like, he flashes and he's like, look, I have just walked through the whole mountain. And it's like, the idea is like, he represents someone who did not step out of their comfort zone to actually do the work towards enlightenment.
Right.
They're just sitting at the base, comfortable in the knowledge that they've gained so far, but not like they're so aware of all of the basics, all the primers, meditation, visualization, all that kind of stuff. These are grounding, shielding. These are things that like every single person who practices magic learns at the start.
Yeah.
And if all you do is that, you can get really good at that, but you may not be able to actually gain any insight into yourself or into your place in the world or any of that stuff unless you actually climb the fucking mountain.
Yeah.
Like you can be so impressive that like, look how quickly I can get through all those basic primers of this subject. But if you don't pursue the subject with any depth, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But anyway, they're like, luckily our protagonists are not swayed. They are like, no, we're going to climb the mountain. Fuck you. And they leave. And Dionysus is like, well, you're going to regret that. This is where everybody is. You had potential. And I'm like, whoa, like it's definitely like there's some Hollywood critique there. I feel like, or some like entertainment culture critique for sure. Cause it just felt like something like a producer would say if you walked out on them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like, almost like, this movie definitely
They'll never work in this town again.
Exactly. And like this movie has a lot to say about what's the word? About the commodification of spirituality.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get it. We get like a version of it when we're in the city at the beginning.
Yes.
And then we get another version of it now that we're here at the start of the Holy Mountain. Like we get these commodifications of spirituality, one in an ignorant world, and even then in the people that are on the path to enlightenment.
Yeah.
They're still not immune to it. It's still there. Anything you can abuse drugs too much. You can, and fry your brain basically. You can abuse being a master at the basics.
Yeah.
And then you can also be the facilitator of it. Like, no, the party's here. Why would you want to go up the mountain? It's lonely up there. We're all down here at the base of the mountain. We're comfortable here. And you got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. You have to sacrifice so that you can ascend. So 2 things that we overlooked that I want to stress now because they are going to be relevant to the rest of the movie.
Okay.
When they're about to get on the boat to go to Lotus Island, the thief is met by the woman, and they're not ready yet, basically, and met by a bunch of children. And he raises up his hands like he's about to perform a miracle.
Yeah.
And then the alchemist stops him and says, "Do you want to perform miracles like Christ?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I want to?" And he's like, "Well, look at what's going to happen if you do." And like he shows him an image of like where he like multiplies all this bread, and then everyone starts fighting over it, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of represents like once you've started on the path of enlightenment, you want to tell everybody about it. You want to do the hard work for them because you're like, well, no, like it's great. Like it's like knowing who you are is great. It feels good. You feel like you understand yourself. You feel like you're capable of anything. Why wouldn't you want to join me in doing this? But the problem is that if you do the hard work for somebody, they don't appreciate it, and they haven't built up the foundation that is necessary to find their own path, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that's how I interpret that scene is like, you want to do these miracles and just do everything for everybody else, but you can't, because esoteric knowledge cannot be taught. You can only put someone down the path. You can't walk it for them.
Right. It definitely makes a lot more sense with that.
It's a lot less cynical of an interpretation than the movie was going for.
Because like if you at face value, it seems like it's like you can't help people, they're just gonna fuck it up, like, or something along those lines.
And maybe that's what was intended, but it's just not, like, with everything else in context, it's just not how I read that scene.
Yeah.
Because the alchemist is helping people before the thief gets up into his area, like into his tower. He's sending gold down. He's giving people wisdom. He is helping people get enlightenment, but he is doing so in a gradual fashion. He's only giving it to people who are seeking it for themselves. And I think that's kind of like the whole point, is what they're saying, is that you can't force people to do the path. You can't give people bread. You can't give people spiritual bread. They have to seek it for themselves. But I'm not a cynic, so I think that like colors it a little bit. I'm not a cynical person, so like I'm trying to not read this movie cynically.
Right. Yeah, and then on the boat is when we have the scene of him discarding the 5 of Swords.
Yeah, and that's the second one. It's like, like basically like, well, we haven't seen that guy in a while. Yeah. And then the rest of the cult is like, oh, thief, you have the most thoughts. We'll help you with that. Yeah. And then they use some platonic solids is what they are. It's just there to look cool, but like the idea, like sacred geometry, which is not necessarily something I subscribe to, but sacred geometry kind of focuses on these platonic solids as being spiritually significant as well as physically significant. Yeah. And
just so we're clear on what a platonic solid is, it's a shape.
Thank you. It's a specific kind of shape where it's like,
if you 3D model, you would know it as a base mesh.
Yeah, a platonic solid is a 3-dimensional object that has the same shape on all sides, basically. So
Okay, so like the pentagon gets turned into like a dodecahedron or whatever.
Right. So what you would know as a D20 is the most complicated platonic solid, and then like a pyramidal, like three-corner pyramid, a cube, a oh god, whatever, you get the idea. They're specific, they're special shapes where every side is the same shape, basically.
Okay.
There is a video on YouTube by Jan Misali. There are 48 regular polyhedra. Please look it up, watch it, it's great. It goes over platonic solids. It also goes over other things that meet the definition technically, but historically the platonic solids were considered the regular polyhedra.
Okay.
And because of that, though, because historically those were for the longest time the only regular polyhedra, they gained a spiritual significance to them, basically.
Yeah.
And so when he has the like tube with all of the platonic solids in it, it's just a reference to that kind of sacred geometry stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, they use that to conjure this Five of Swords guy onto the boat, and it's revealed that he's not a real person. He's an illusion. He's always been an illusion. And again, the Five of Swords representing the overconfidence, the arrogance, the self-assuredness, and he has to throw it over the edge of the boat in order to truly be worthy of ascension, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, he'll drown. And the alchemist says, let go of your illusions.
Yeah.
So, or you will never be worthy. And he does. He like throws him over the edge. But we cut to seeing that it's not real. It's a phantom.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very clear phantom. That it's not a real person.
Okay. So now we've caught back up. We're climbing the mountain. Finally.
Yes, we've reached the titular holy mountain.
I feel like we've climbed the holy mountain with this podcast. This is going to be the longest podcast we've recorded yet. We climbed the holy mountain, and it's less important to go into the details, except for like each of the planetary mages gets their own little like hallucination that they have that kind of reveals something about their character. And
also one of them is compelled to cut off his fingers. Oh,
yeah, that's right. Because he's like, you didn't let go of your physicality, so now you have to sacrifice it or go back.
Because he was getting frostbite.
Yeah. So that he cuts his fingers off. He proceeds, which is like the path to enlightenment requires that you commit. You have to commit, because if you give up halfway through, then you might as well not have done it at all. You've just wasted all this effort.
Yeah.
You have to commit. But anyway, the one that's important is that when we reach a certain point where they're all having their hallucinations, the thief gets his image, which is that he walks up to a tarp, he pulls the tarp open, and there is a half man, half woman rebus, which is an alchemy thing. The idea of like combining both the femininity and masculinity to the point of, achieving true balance in yourself. It's an alchemical goal. It's one of the great works of alchemy.
Yeah.
And he suckles from the rebus and, takes from them and all that kind of stuff. And it's like a whole like ideas, like he's internalizing the combination of these energies. So along the path, he's had all of these people who represent the planets guiding him with their own individual personalities. And now he's obtaining that synthesis between masculinity and femininity.
Yeah.
And so now he's reached the point where he's finally got it. And they all like have their hallucinations. They get to the end of their path. They see up on the hill these hooded figures around a table, and they're like, oh, look, it's the immortals. And then the alchemist is like, okay, you guys don't need me anymore. You've reached it. I'm gonna leave now. Bye. And then the thief follows him because he's like, well, I'm not gonna leave you. I'm still learning from you. And then the alchemist says, well, you've achieved everything you need to know. You can take off my head. It's so fast too. He's like,
just behead me.
Yeah, you behead me. A master without an apprentice is no master at all. You may cut off my head.
He pulls out this comically huge scimitar.
Yeah. And then goes for full sends it. He goes for it. But of course, this is a test. The alchemist has replaced his head with a goat, and he's beheaded a goat. And then the alchemist says, "Ha! You passed the test. You're worthy. I give you my tower. I give you my alchemy rooms. I give you it all. Go back to the city." And finally, now the woman's caught up with them again, and he's like, "This woman who followed you here for no other reason than love. You go be with her.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourselves. Take pleasure in this. Go." And it's like the alchemist is now like, "I'm ascending. I don't need this shit anymore. But you have proven to me that you're my successor. Go and be my successor."
Yeah. So our protagonist essentially leaves the picture.
Correct. Yeah, he's done. We're now going to focus on the 9 planetary mages,
which is not much more movie, but they do go up the rest of the way to the mountain. They find the mages and find out they're dummies.
Yes, and one of them is the alchemist, and he's like, "Ha! I tricked you," and they all laugh, and they're all like, they all find it really funny.
They all sit down at the table, and then he gives them a final lesson.
Yeah, so the alchemist basically says, like, there were no immortals. The path of climbing the mountain, that was the whole point.
Right.
We didn't find the gift of immortality, but what we found instead was our enlightenment. In fact, we're all tired of being characters in a play. And then he says, "Camera, zoom back," and he breaks the fourth wall.
Yep.
And then the camera zooms back, and he's like, "Look, we've done it. We've reached the top of the holy mountain. Let's move on with our fucking lives. Like, let's start living now for the first time," is what he says. And I feel like this is a great example of what ascendancy looks like in terms of, like, how do fictional characters ascend? They become real people.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, the idea is, like, how do you ascend as a person? You become more than a person.
Yeah.
So what does a fictional character do to ascend? They become more than the fictional character.
Yeah.
And so when he's like, "Nope, zoom back, camera, we're all done."
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of trying to show that in a cheeky, tongue-in-cheek way.
Yeah. It's a good allegory.
And then they leave. And that's the end of the movie. They just get up and walk into the distance.
Yeah. And I think... And I can't remember if we specifically talked about this, but kind of what I take from him sending the thief away is, like, he was deemed worthy to, like, start doing the real work. Like, they did this, like, kind of shortcut for the other planets, and like, that's fine for them because they were fake people and they can, like, they're kind of disposable in a way. But the thief is the protagonist, and he's now able to, like, go on and take the place of the alchemist and kind of start his journey until he's ready to do this same thing and
with the
ascend.
next person.
Yeah.
And, like, the idea of passing the torch.
Yeah.
So, like, achieving ascendancy, it doesn't have to be some mystical woo bullshit. It can just be, like, the idea that, like, you know who you are, you understand who you are, you understand the mechanisms that will continue to allow you to actualize on yourself and change yourself. You are what we would call a healthy person, and now you can help inspire other people along their journeys. But you're done. You can move on now. You can do other things. Because the path of self-actualization is not some infinite journey that you just take for your whole life. Once you reach that point, that critical mass, you no longer have to just focus on that. You can do other things with your fucking life. Like, look, I think I said this in one of our earlier reviews. It's like, once you reach actualization, that's when life starts.
Right. Yeah.
You've completed your character sheet, and now it's time to move on with your life.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you can't continue to improve. I definitely still, like, I'm not there yet personally. I don't feel. Yeah. And so it's like, but these rituals and all these skills that you learn to do the magic and to actualize yourself and change yourself and alchemy, it all serves the purpose of getting you to that critical mass. And once you're there, you still have a whole life ahead of you. Your life's not over.
There's always another mountain.
There's always another holy mountain. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great kind of come around end theme, is that you don't have to believe in magic or in the occult to take away the message of this movie. That is, the journey up the mountain is not one that everyone's going to take. A lot of people are going to say you're crazy, but getting to the top is its own reward. Achieving the top, and then you climb down that mountain and you go up the next one. And life will repeat lessons to you until you learn them, and then there are new lessons to learn.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about how this movie was made, not in like a behind the scenes kind of way, but like let's talk about the kind of form of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said at the beginning, it's very rich with imagery, and I think one of the things I really appreciate about it is it's this kind of very high concept thing, but it doesn't take itself overly seriously. It barely takes itself seriously at all.
It's very tongue-in-cheek. And I think that the actual literal director of this movie at the end being like, there's no immortals. Like laughing at the concept and then laughing with the audience. He's not mocking you.
Yeah.
He's just like, did you really think there were going to be immortals? No, it's funny, right?
Like, this is just a story we tell.
And the literal director saying that I think is really impactful.
Yeah, there are lots of funny moments. I remember laughing out loud several times, even during the first like dark, grungy section. Like the fact that that crowd of children starts stoning the thief. He scares them off. The next scene, they're just all dead on a truck. Like that's
I totally forgot about that. Oh my God, you're right.
It's like I don't know the symbolism of that, but it's funny, and I think it's intentionally.
It's very dark comedy.
Yeah.
This is what I meant, by the way, when in the Little Man episode when I said I love dark comedy. This is what I was talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts about like kind of from a aesthetic filmmaking point of view?
I think that as the movie gets increasingly more clean in terms of its like overall, like the movie starts off very crowded, and very boxed in and dirty, and then we get to the second part of the movie and it's still boxed in but it's clean, everything's clean, and then the third part of this movie we're now out in the open spaces, and like the only part that's boxed in and fake is the Pantheon bar, because by the way we go inside the bar and it's a graveyard inside, but the walls are painted to look like it's painted to look like it's outside, but it's an internal set, like, and so it's one of those things where it's like this is a fake place of death, and then soon we go right back outside and we're wide open spaces, so you can see the ocean and horizon around forever. So I think that like as the movie itself is unburdening itself as the thief is unburdening himself. Like as he is letting go of all of this shit, we are letting go of it. And so like we see less people in the frame, we see less, there's no like the grime of the earlier parts are removed, and that transition reflects the transition towards enlightenment, because when you start off on this journey, you're surrounded by people who are exactly where you're at, in the gutter with everybody else. And as you work towards bettering yourself, less and less people will be around you along the way, because the journey is perilous and difficult, and not everybody is capable of it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of it. And also like speech, people talk way, way more as the movie goes on, because the idea of speech, the word of God, like the idea of language being what makes us more than just other animals, because we're animals, we're beasts like anything else, but very few people actually talk in the movie until we reach the tower.
Yes.
And then even then in the tower there's very little dialogue until we get introduced to the planets, and then by the time we're in the third act, people are talking back and forth like crazy. And the thief doesn't talk basically at all, except for that until the third act, like until that third part of the movie. He doesn't really say much, and it's like as he becomes more enlightened, he talks more,
he gains the power of speech.
Exactly.
And in that first act, when we say there's no speech, in case you haven't seen it, there's like kind of like grunting,
and
like
there's one line, "Come drink with us."
there's a lot of like, which was another thing that reminded me of Mad God, because there's a lot of that in
there's very little language in Mad God. There's only a couple of voiced lines in the entire movie.
I almost want to do Mad God next, just to...
We can.
Yeah,
we have the power.
We have the power.
We did it with I Saw a TV Glow and with We're All Going to the World's Fair. So yeah, let's do Mad God next.
We'll put our thumb on the scales when we see fit.
It's just because Mad God's a really good thematic companion to this movie.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have a lot to say about that. But it's instead of being about spirituality, it's just about pain. Anyway, we'll do Mad God next. That's great. So with that stated, overall, I think that when it comes to the cinematic language of this movie, I like how the cinematic language and the writing and everything evolves to represent the different stages of enlightenment. I like how the central character starts off as this dirty, gross person, but then by the end he's put together and he's capable and he's willing to do what's necessary, and he's a fit successor for the alchemist that we see at the beginning. He's no longer a thief anymore. He's ascended his station as a thief, and he's become the alchemist.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. I appreciate that the visual language of this movie reflects the narrative language of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have anything else before we get into like wrap up? I mean, we've certainly been talking long enough.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about this like forever.
Right. Yeah.
We may revisit it in the future once we've watched more movies.
Yeah.
This is definitely like the first movie we've watched where I'm like, I think we might want to do a second pass of this like down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially like as I get further in my own spiritual journey, it'd be interesting to like see how I feel about it in like 2 years.
Yeah.
But regardless, I stole the intro from you, so you can do the end closing if you want to. We can reverse it.
Okay. But I usually ask you first.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so I'll ask you. So
okay.
All right. So since I snubbed you at the beginning, Tristan, what's one thing you liked and one thing you didn't like about this movie?
I liked that it had a lot of like uncomfortable imagery and scenes, but for the most part, it didn't kind of cross a line into feeling crass or
vulgar, but not crass. I would agree with that.
Yeah. The scene where the thief discards the Five of Swords, highly uncomfortable at the beginning because, you know, it's a real actor with, what was the word that we looked up? It doesn't matter.
Tetraamelia.
A tetraameliac on this boat, like obviously has zero way to swim. Reminiscent, if you've seen The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, yes.
I was like, is this going to be a Liam Neeson moment?
Oh, God.
But then, you know, Jodorowsky shows you, it cuts to the thief miming, holding, and it's clear there's nothing there. And the final shot of him discarding this little man is mimed. They don't put anyone in danger. And I thought that was like, I don't know, obviously it would have been more like viscerally impactful if we had seen
him literally throw.
Yeah. But it doesn't need, I don't know that would have added anything.
I think that's the point, is that like it's not real. The Five of Swords burden, that card is not, it doesn't represent real things.
Yeah.
It represents like imagined suffering. Like, remember how we talked about in a previous episode how we make our own suffering, basically, like how we can suffer infinitely because we just keep it. Yeah. So it's like that. Like the Five of Swords represents that. It's this, it's the suffering that we like bring upon ourselves through our own bullshit. So him throwing that into the ocean, it not being real, I think is important to what that card means.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But like, just kind of like from a filmmaking standpoint, you know, the general rule of filmmaking is you look for ways to heighten emotion and kind of squeeze as much as you can out of these moments. But I think this is kind of a good counterexample
where restraint is the better choice.
Yeah. There was like kind of a mercy to that.
Yeah, this movie is I would say that this movie is very merciful about its imagery. Like, it will give you some gross out stuff, but then it'll give you a good break from it, or it won't linger on it too long. Like, the most it lingers is when they're like rubbing animal fat on on the thief.
Yeah,
that's kind of gross.
That graphic,
but it's really gross.
Yeah,
but then they're like, okay, we're done with that. Like, we finished it. We don't need to linger on it anymore. Right. What is okay? What's one thing you didn't like then?
Well, I mean, the animal abuse. I mean, that's an easy one, and I've heard this about his other movies as well. That he's willing to sacrifice some animals to make a picture.
How very occult of him.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, like, I bet you that goat that gets its head cut off was a real goat, and that's real goat blood.
That one, I don't know. That one is probably fake.
No,
but
you live in the reality where it's real.
Although it could have been like taxidermy or something.
Probably. Yeah. If for the audience, I'm joking.
Yeah, right. That's something that I've boycotted other movies for, like was it Cannibal Holocaust?
Talk about a movie that doesn't have any restraint.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it because I boycotted it because I know there's
I saw it before I knew
animal abuse.
I saw it before I knew, but yeah, not a movie I'd ever want to watch again.
It sounds like definitely they were using it for the shock value. Whether that makes a difference, I'm not gonna.
They actually had the actors sign like a thing that made them like they couldn't appear in any other movies or television for a year after recording.
Wow.
To sell the idea that they all died.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. People thought it was real when it first came out. Like, it was one of those like Exorcist kind of things where people it was too much for people when it first came out. Now it's just a kind of exploitative. Like, it's just like, ooh, for native people who aren't white are scary. But like,
yeah. But anyway, Pink Flamingos is another one where I
think I banned Pink Flamingos because I heard it was just disgusting.
It is, yeah. And I'm fine with disgusting, but the things that they do to that chicken were apparently unsimulated, and I won't go into it any further than that. Point is, that was one thing I didn't care for in this movie.
Okay. So,
what's one thing that you liked and one that you did not like, Ari?
Thanks. For all those of you who
say the line, Bart.
For those of you that can't see, I stuck my whole hand up like a puppet and made him say that.
Yeah. Very uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna have to have a talk about that.
Tristan's just a figment of my imagination. I'm just doing both voices. No, okay. So one thing I really liked about this movie was I liked that it was kind of like how Phantasm is like a introduction to cosmic horror. I felt like this was an introduction to occultism and to esotericism and into Gnosticism, which I don't personally ascribe to, but like I liked that it's a good introduction to these themes for somebody. So if somebody's mentally ready for it, they will receive it from this movie, and I think it will inspire people to begin to look into these things for themselves. I think it's a really good primer for some of these concepts, even if it's not correct in the sense of like traditionally, it's definitely got some good jumping off points for people on a mental level for these things.
Yeah.
And the whole movie is about ascendancy and actualization, which I will always support because I think those are important things. Like you don't need to be spiritual about your actualization. I am personally, but like you can be atheistic about your pursuit of actualization.
Yeah.
I just think that the journey is important, and if more people did that, there would be less suffering in the world.
Yeah.
So I think that this movie overall, its messaging is something I really respect, and I think that there's very few of its themes that I don't agree with, in the sense of like critiquing the commodification of religion, critiquing people who rely on drugs for spirituality instead of just using them as a tool, a supplementary tool. And then, you know, the imagery of climbing a mountain for spiritual enlightenment being a very good image of like how difficult it can be, but how worthwhile it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if we're talking about, you know, critiques, there may well have been, first of all, several that flew under the radar because there's so many packed in here.
That's true. It's very dense.
Do you think there's some sort of a, like, what do you think Jodorowsky's feelings on sex work are, like, kind of generally?
That actually ties into what I don't like about this movie.
Perfect.
I don't like how they portray women in this movie for the most part. Like there's a joke where the Mars mage has a bunch of male prostitutes, but like it's a one-off joke and it doesn't really recur. Women are objectified in this, and they're seen as a distraction, and only the men for the most part get the actualization, except for the few. There are a couple of women amongst the planetary mages, that's true, so it's not like outright sexist, but there is definitely a lot of sexism in the occult traditionally, which doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. It just means that like men tend to be patriarchal, and any spirituality is going to have a lot of male dominated bullshit going on, so it's not really a downside of that. But I think that the view of women in this movie as a whole kind of represents a mindset that of purity culture, that I think, which makes sense for someone who grew up culturally in an incredibly Catholic country. Like even though he's really critical of religion, it's really difficult for you to like unpack and step away from that kind of stuff. So he views like, because basically as that prostitute follows the thief, she gets more and more modest in her dress, and she gets more and more modest in her makeup until the end, where she basically has almost none at all. And that and like the power of love saved her from her hoe days, basically. So I have a critique of that, basically, in the idea that like femininity should be more respected in the occult, and it's definitely made by a male occultist. He's definitely a male, like he's definitely into this shit, but you can tell that it was a lot of penis energy, basically, because it's just it oozes from this film, and I would like to see a woman remake this movie. I think it would be interesting, because a lot of the things that make people uncomfortable in this film, if a woman did a lot of like bodily stuff with that, like instead of it being a lot of penis energy, if there was some vagina energy in this, I feel like it would gross a lot of men out, and it would be the same thing, but it would challenge the current paradigm better. That's just my 2 cents, but I'm always going to want more women to make more things.
Sure. Yeah. All right. I think we've
audience,
reached
you made
the
it.
end of our journey.
You did it. We're all enlightened now. Yeah. So, you know, there wasn't really any grand acquisition at the end of this film. It didn't enlighten you. But you know, it was the journey that made it along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull an alchemist here, everybody. Like there were no immortals this whole time. I'm just joshing you. Isn't that a great joke, everybody?
Yeah, and honestly, it is.
It is.
It is. That was a very well executed meta moment.
Yes, that's how you do meta correctly, in my opinion. Like everyone wants to be meta, but they don't execute on it as well as this movie does.
Yeah. Before we close out and ascend or whatever, let's briefly go over like the serendipitous like links to the other movies that we've reviewed so far, because we talked about Inland Empire, and we didn't even mentioned, like the camera pulling back, that itself is
very Inland Empire. You're right. I think you said that when we were watching.
Yeah. There was a little man.
Yep, a little man existed. Definitely had themes of layers of artifice, which ties into We're All Going to the World's Fair. The dreamy, like surreal, magical realism ties into TV glow
and phantasm.
Yeah. The elements of layers of reality, phantasm is very much about, and so is I Tell a TV Glow. Those two movies are very thematically consistent with each other.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Little Man, we already said.
Yeah.
Inland Empire.
I remember you mentioning Climate of the Hunter. I don't remember the context. I think it was like the treatment of women and like objectification.
It might have been, yeah. I don't really remember. It was a one-off comment. I should have written it down, but whatever.
It was during a section of the movie where we were really like kind of struggling to pin down where it was going and what its themes were.
That's true.
And I think maybe you were expecting it to be like more a critique of female objectification. Yeah,
because it seemed to be setting it up. Yeah. Like how the church, all those prostitutes were in the church and they were all like looking up in awe at the altar, and then they come out and I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing like Climate of the Hunter but better. Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah. I was like, we're doing Climate of the Hunter but better right now. Like we're critiquing the patriarchy, but then it kind of just drops that point, which again ties into why it's my least favorite thing. Is like I wish there was more critique about how spirituality demeans women.
Yeah.
Whilst also being a pro spirituality film, because it's like I want to actualize change. As a trans woman who is an occultist, I want to change the culture of this. Yeah. I don't want to abandon it. I don't want to just be an atheist because there's a bunch of sexist bullshit. Because I believe in the supernatural. So it's like, okay, so I believe in that. So now what I need to do is help enact change in the culture of it,
right?
Which is already happening. Like it's a change that's been taking place over a long time,
right? Okay,
but yeah, this movie is kind of interesting. It's like it's a great nexus of a lot of the themes that we've discussed in other films.
Yeah.
And again, we're rolling randomly for most of these films, so the idea that like they've consistently been about artifice and about like how society treats women and like, because even I Saw a TV Glows about that little bit, like just a little kiss of that.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Well, we're gonna do Mad God next, and we know what we're in for there. We've seen it multiple times, but there's a lot to dig into.
Regardless, thanks for joining me again in my living room, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Good night, folks. This has been Emissaries from the Void with Ari Stell Hawthorne and myself, Tristan Bowersox. New episodes will be released every other week with short bonus content we're calling liminals in the off weeks. The intro music is Now I Hear Little Dreams by Captive Portal, and the outro music is Arcadia by White Bat Audio. You can find us on Blue Sky at Void Emissaries, and remember that's single M-double-S. You can find Ari as Obscurity on most platforms and me on Blue Sky and Letterboxd as TB McQueen. The latter is where you will find our watch list and suggest movies you'd like to hear us dissect. You can also email us at emissariesfromthevoid@outlook.com to give feedback, alternate takes on the movies we've discussed, questions, suggestions, etc. Emissaries from the Void is a Void Opal podcast produced by TB McQueen Creative. For something completely different, listen to my other podcast, Fan Fiction Theater.